Cleaning up some copper today. Still not feeling 100%, but I feel good enough to clean some copper. There's always time to clean some copper. So I've heard a lot of people say that their yard won't give you number one for copper that had oil running through it, like AC units. If that is the case, you need to find a new yard because you're ripping you off. Because they're gonna send it as number one, whether they buy it as number one or not. I guarantee you they're selling it off as number one. Behind your back. It's definitely been known to happen. Just like some yards will pay for red brass higher price than yellow brass. Some won't, including my yard. My yard will not pay more for red brass. But if you watch them, after they weigh it and dump it, they dump it into a separate container most of the time, at my yard at least, into a bin that contains only red brass. So they definitely sell it off, certain items, at different price points than they're paying you for. So I recommend you shop around and try to get the best price for what you're getting. I go to 3 or 4 different yards. Primarily, I have 2 yards that I frequent, but on occasion, if I'm in the right area, I will go to one of the other 2. One of my yards used to pay real good on copper. Lately, their prices have been pretty low. Yeah, so if you've never cleaned copper before, basically what you're looking to do, I mean, obviously you can turn it in just like this, right? Or just like this, with all these little brass pieces and foam, tape, paint, etc. But what I do is I try to maximize it. Doesn't take long. So where these joints go together, there's solder. So you're gonna have to cut this joint off, that'll be number 1. And then you cut either side here, and what's left will be number 2. Of course, you can leave that on, cut it off, and just have the whole thing be number 2, but that's number 1 because there's no solder on that except for right at the bottom. So I'll cut all of those off. You gotta be careful because sometimes these ends will have solder. I cut it off of whatever it was on an AC unit at the point of solder. That way I only needed to do 1 cut, clean it up afterwards. But you want to take off those solder joints and remove all the brass. Otherwise they'll probably give you dirty brass or dirty copper. Quite a big difference in price. If they go as far as doing like dirty copper or number 3 copper, it could be $1 or more or less than your number 1 or number 2. So unless you don't really care, you should probably clean it up as best as you can. So I set up 3 buckets, one for number 1, one for number 2, and one for brass. And you might need one for steel because you're going to have some steel bits that come off, little fasteners and different things like that. This is steel. I'm going to have to throw that in a separate bucket. Throwing that in for now. Try to remove all the tape and stuff like that. They don't like that on there. They'll try to downgrade you if they see too much of it. If there's just a little, I mean, you can kind of get away with it at some places, but some are stricter than others. So I just take a little razor or a knife and try to clean off all that tape. Boy, it's a nice day today, 66 degrees, I think, which could be a record for today, but probably not. I remember last year in February, I'm in Nashville, just outside of Nashville. Last year in February, there was a day that got to 85 degrees. Crazy. But we just got over a real nasty cold spell. We're in the single digits in the minus temperatures, and that's not a usual occurrence for Nashville. So that was pretty brutal, but we made it through. Now we're in the 60s in February. I love it. Of course, that's when my body says, well, we're gonna get sick. But it's just the way it goes sometimes. Cut all these little pieces off. They're number 1. All adds up. They are kind of small, but that's okay. I'll take it. So if you're cleaning up your copper to get number 1 and number 2 separate, you're going to realize just how much it's really worth it, because you're going to end up with just a little bit of number 2 and a whole lot of number 1, because the little solder joints are super small, you know, like this. Let me just do this whole piece, and I'll show you the amount of number 2 versus the amount of number 1 that comes off of this long piece. Okay. So there's all your number 1, and there's your number 2. So yeah, if you turn it in without cutting it up, you're just gonna get the number 2 price. Right now, I mean, my number 2 price is higher than people's number 1 price. But for number 1, I'm getting $333, I think. And that's if it's Bear Bright or if it's copper tubing, whatever. They all categorize it as number 1. There's no Bear Bright price. Some places pay more for Bear Bright. If we're talking wire, Bear Bright versus number 1, there's like a couple cent difference. Other places it's a bigger difference, but they don't pay a different price at my yard for Bear Bright versus number 1. But anyways, number 1, I'm getting $333, I think. For normal people, it's $330 or $328. But I'm in a different tier, because I bring so much in. I don't know how they do it. It's either by the weight or the amount of times or both. But this Christmas they told me I was in the top, I don't know, whatever, of customers that come in with, you know, all the scrap. They've already had me in a higher tier. There's 6 tiers, and I'm in tier 3, I think, 2 or 3. So there's a long way to go. But somehow I was in the top, whatever, I don't know how many, let's just say the top 50 or top 100 or something. They gave me a $100 gift card. So if you go to yards consistently, there might be a chance that they have a tier system, or something just fell off somebody's truck. Hold on. Wood fell off someone's truck. Anyways, some yards might have a different tier system like mine. I haven't heard about it anywhere, but I'm sure it happens, especially with like commercial companies that bring in just a crazy amount of scrap, you know, by the tractor trailer full or whatever. But yeah, I mean, ask your yards, do you have a tier system? If you bring in a certain amount in a certain amount of time, you know, let's say, I don't know, 100 tons per 6 months, do they do more for steel, or do they do more for everything? This particular yard, it's not every single item that has a higher price if you're in another tier, but it's a lot of items. So, for example, number 1, if you're not on the higher tier, it's like $3.30. But if you're in tier 2, it goes up by like 5 cents. If you're in tier 3, it goes up by another couple cents. Tier 4, maybe another couple. Tier 5, etc., etc. Let's see. Something else. I don't think steel or scrap has a different price. It might be like a quarter-cent a pound. Brass is the same. Aluminum jumps up like 2 cents a pound. Ballasts go from 15 to 17 cents. Electric motors go from 20 to 24 cents a pound. So it's, you know, it's a significant difference if you have hundreds and hundreds of pounds of stuff, which is pretty awesome. So check with your yard and see if they do that. It may be worth your time. You know, some yards may do that and not advertise that they do that. I don't know. But if you're bringing in quite a bit of stuff, it's worth it to ask. I mean, it's a good policy. If you want more customers to bring more stuff to you, to your scrap yard, offer to pay them more if they're if they continually bring it to your yard. It's pretty smart, especially if a lot of yards don't do that. Pay money to make money, right? That's what we're doing. Sometimes some people just go out and get everything for free, but I think in order to be in the big leagues, you got to be willing to pay for stuff, especially with copper and brass and all that. People aren't just going to normally give that away for free. Of course, you'll have the rare occasion, like the guy stopped by my house the other day and said, "Hey, I see you scrap. I've got a bunch of copper and brass and stuff at the house. You can have it if you want it." Of course, sure, yeah. But a lot of times when I get new customers, I say up front, I'm willing to pay. I don't say that on the back end. I say that on the front end, just to stick out from other people that say, "Well, I just wanted to get it for free," or whatever. I offer to pay, and if they want me to haul it off without paying, hey, that's cool too. Now I gotta find my knife to clean this up. See all this foam stuff on there? I'm always got the sun behind me, so it's hard to see, but there's foam and stuff stuck on it, so I'm gonna try to clean it up a bit. Gotta find the knife. Very nice. Oh yeah. Nice and clean. Beautiful. another sticker. I love these cable cutters because they cut through the copper pipe pretty well. Use the leverage of the ground and the weight of my body. Just send it. Works real well. It's better than trying to squeeze it together like that. Really hard to do it that way. Of course, you'll get in the pipe that's way too thick, like Roger at CU Scrapping got some real big pipe in one of his big bins that, you know, they call them Gaylords. Why do they call them that? But those, you can't use this. You'll have to use some kind of power tool to get through that stuff. It is thick. But this works great for wire up to quadruple zero gauge. Once you get into the MCM, like 300 MCM, 500, 750, it gets real difficult to cut through stuff that big. But it works great for everything else. Or so. One of these cat litter buckets, depending on the size of the copper. I like to fill these up, and then if I happen to have enough, just pour it into a big bin and take it to the scrapyard. It's a lot more manageable to put it in smaller buckets until then. Lug 400-pound garbage bin of copper around her. I am very blessed to have copper at such a good price right now. But I mean, again, it's not like every single yard is paying that. One of my yards, the one that I usually take my copper to, pays $3.30 something a pound. If you take it to the other yard I go to, they pay $2.75 a pound. It's just, I don't know why they're so far off. I guess they offset it by paying lower on scrap. The other yard that pays less on copper pays more on scrap. You know, I've kind of talked with them because they know that I haven't been bringing copper to them, and they're like, "Are you bringing your copper?" And I tell them, I'm nice enough to, you know, tell them, you don't have to tell anybody where you're taking your stuff. But, nor do you have to tell anybody where it's coming from. I mean, of course there's people stealing copper everywhere, but it's not a requirement to tell the scrapyard, "Hey, I'm getting paid this much somewhere else." I'm just kind enough to tell them, "Hey, up your prices and I'll bring the copper to you." You know, they've tried to make deals, and I've brought certain things because they'll increase the price for me. Don't be afraid to ask. I mean, the worst they can say is no. They're not going to say, "Oh, get out of here, don't ever come back." They'll just say no. It may be awkward for a day or two, but, you know, it never hurts to ask. Because if you bring a certain amount of anything, people might be willing to pay you more. That's just how it goes. Just how it goes. Sometimes this foam comes off real nice, but sometimes it's just stuck. And this time it's just stuck on there. See, that side's nice, the other side, nope. Clean this one up. So yeah, the point of this video is obviously to show you how to upgrade your copper. But more importantly, don't be afraid to call around the different yards, you know, and ask what their prices are. Don't feel obligated to just go to one yard. You know, you may have a nice, you know, relationship with one of your yards, and then they stop paying. I still go. And once they bring the prices back up, you may go back. You know, the name of the game is trying to make the most money you can, the best way you can, the most efficient way. Some people just like to work in dumpsters, which, hey, there's plenty of good stuff in those. Some people like to go to businesses and try to work out a deal. That's what I prefer. But it's all up to you. What you want to do and how much money you want to make is all up to you. I just like the freedom of being my own boss. You know, I've worked for corporations forever. Finally, I work for myself, and it's the best thing since sliced bread, in my opinion. Of course, there's perks and benefits of working for a company, but not all the time, especially nowadays. Corporations are greedy, which, you know, who's not? Up to you what you want to do and make it yourself, and that's okay. You can leave it up to a company, corporation to tell you what to do. That's your opinion, just not for me. All right, well, we got that copper and brass and stuff, not too much brass, cleaned up. Getting warm out here. Anyways, appreciate y'all stopping by and listening. Let me know what your yards are paying, and if there's such wild swings between yards, like mine, $3.30 a pound, the other $2.75 a pound. That's a pretty big swing in prices if you ask me. But let me know. Appreciate you stopping by. Have a good one.